Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Good evening, good day, everyone. Welcome to the Blacks in Technology Big Tech Talk podcast. This is episode number 94. We are slowly inching towards that number 100 episode. Tonight we have Onyi Nwosu, and this episode is QA Engineering at Sesame Street. So Blacks in Technology, this podcast show is where we talk to people of color who are engineers, innovators, educators, and inventors, and entrepreneurs doing amazing things in the world of technology. This podcast is where they share their experiences, ideas, knowledge, and perspective on tech with the big community. I'm your host, Greg Greenlee. If this is your first time listening, you can check us out the following URLs. We're at www.blacksintechnology.net. We are also on Twitter, and that's at Black in Technology, BLKINTECHNOLOGY. We're also on Facebook, so that's facebook.com/Blacks in Technology. We have a LinkedIn group, so just search for Blacks in Technology. You'll find us there as well. And we do have a Slack channel that is steadily growing. We're close to 500 members in our Slack channel. So go to blacksintechnology.net, do a search for Slack. You'll find the invite form. Click on it. You'll get an automatic invite. And come and join us because we have some lively conversations, a lot of activity going on. So if you're on Twitter right now, you have any questions for our guests, tweet them using the hashtag BitTechTalk, BITTECHTALK. I'm going to run through some announcements real quick. So self-conference, that is happening next week, May 20th and the 25th in Detroit, Michigan. And Blacks in Technology will be there. We will be holding a meetup. There is a link on our page to register for the meetup. Hopefully people can make it out there. I think it's going to be an amazing meetup. There's going to be some giveaways going on, food, drinks. I will have t-shirts, Blacks in Technology t-shirts for anyone that attends the meetup. So you definitely want to make your way there. And also, I want to definitely thank our sponsors for the meetup. Salesforce, once again, a sponsor, Blacks in Technology meetup at Self Conference, as well as Puppet. They have graciously made a sponsorship donation to the Blacks in Technology meetup happening next week. Linux Foundation, I want to mention that again because we have had some people actually sign up for some training. So this thing is real, okay? So if there's anyone listening and thinking like, you're not really offering free, yeah, there's free training going on. There's already a couple of people, about 4 or 5 people that have signed up for free Linux training through the Linux Foundation, through our partnership. So if you want to take advantage of that, go to our website. You should see an article about the partnership. There's some amazing things going on. There's going to be some offerings for some free conference passes through the Linux Foundation. LinuxCon up in Toronto is going to be going on, and I think they're going to be offering some free passes for it. Plus, they have a whole slew of other conferences that, if you're interested in those, definitely shoot. I think there's a form. There is a Google form on the site. Sign ups or fill that out, submit that for whatever you're interested in. If you're interested in training or you're interested in the conferences, there's links in the form that actually link to the different trainings that are offered, as well as the different conferences that the Linux Foundation organizes. Jobs. So on our jobs board, we do have a bunch of new jobs on there through Stripe. Stripe is hiring for like 9 or 10 different positions in the San Francisco area and Portland area. So go to our jobs board, check that out. Princeton University is hiring for a research software and program analyst. That's out of New Jersey. Who else is hiring? Corner Shop Creative is hiring for a WordPress developer. So if you are interested in any of those positions, go to our jobs board, click on the link there, and fill out the application there. I mentioned Slack. We're up to almost 500 members. I think that's it for announcements. So let's get into our guests. I'm excited about this because I met her last year at uh, WWDC. That's the Worldwide Developers Conference that Apple organizes. We hung around there. Definitely was happy to meet her, and even more excited to finally get her on a podcast. So I want to introduce Onyi Nwosu. She is the current director of QA engineering at Sesame Workshop. She joined Sesame Workshop in 2011, continuing her career in QA by starting and building the workshop's QA department into what it is today. In her spare time, she volunteers with Black Girls Code in New York, and she has a bachelor's. She holds a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering and computer science from Columbia University's School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. So, yeah, definitely, I'm definitely excited that you came on the show. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on this as well. And thanks for inviting me. I'm really excited to talk about QA.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's funny because I seen that you tweeted like I'm famous. When I invited you, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty. It's always it's 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 always a good thing to be respected and revered by your peers. So when you tweeted that, I was just excited as you were tweeting it to receive it. I was like, oh, shoot, this thing is people really like the big tech talk. So it was exciting. So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about your background, where you're from, your education, and so forth.
So my family is actually Nigerian. Both of my parents are from Imo State in Nigeria. And I was actually born in England while my mom was going to school there. So while I was a kid, we were back and forth between Nigeria and New Jersey, of all places. And we finally settled in New Jersey when I was about 5 or 6 years old. And
Hmm.
my family's been in New Jersey ever since. Went to all New Jersey public schools right through high school. Graduated from Hopatcong High School. Um, and then went on to Columbia University. When I actually started school, I knew I wanted to do some sort of engineering. My dad is a chemical engineer. He's done petroleum engineering and food engineering, so I knew I wanted to do engineering, but I wasn't sure what kind, so I did apply to the School of Engineering and Applied Science, and I was undecided.
Right.
So at Columbia, they have what they call the core curriculum, where you have to take a whole bunch of classes, and one of the classes that we do have to take is computer science. And
Hmm.
back then, it was a pretty new field, and I didn't really know that much about it. So when I took like my intro to computer science class, I really loved it. So I declared computer engineering as my major.
Right.
Um, and then as I progressed, I learned about industrial engineering. And because of the way my mind works, and I always want things to work better and be optimal, I thought that industrial engineering would be perfect for me. So that's why I decided to do a major with industrial engineering and computer science.
Gotcha.
So then yeah, go ahead.
So let's go back just a bit. What was it? And I know you said your it was your father that because he was into engineering that kind of sparked your interest in engineering. But how did you actually get into technology? What was your like the first thing that you touched that you were like, oh yeah, this is kind of what I want to do.
I think it was that first intro to computer science class that we had to take, where like every engineer has to take this class at Columbia. So, and a lot of people were terrified of it. I had no idea what it was going to be like.
Hmm.
And so when I got into it, you start making like, your Hello World programs and programs that interact with one another. And then once I got to the end and had our final product, I mean, I really did well. So it was one of the few classes that just came really naturally to me because, like, I guess
Wow.
because, like, my mind, I'm a natural problem solver, and computer science was, like, one place where you can, like, solve actual problems. like right away. So I think that's what got me to believe that this is what I need to do. Not only is this is what I need to do, but this is going to be the future. So I have to be involved in this.
Wow, wow. So no prior experience in technology before that. You didn't do anything in high school, so college was like the first introduction to engineering to technology.
Yeah, I mean, in high school, I was always really good at in science classes and physics and calculus. So I knew that I wanted to be definitely in some sort of applied science or engineering. Like
Hmm.
the closest thing that I took in high school was a typing class. So
Was this
this
with the real typewriter?
the really actually we started off with typewriters, and then halfway through we switched to computers.
Uh,
So yeah, going way back there.
that's all right. I remember typewriters. It's funny because there's a video that's out on the internet somewhere, and it basically shows like some a bunch of kids with like a cassette player, like a Walkman, cassette player Walkman, and so like for like 5 minutes you have like a bunch of different kids like, what is this? Is how do you? And then so like they actually give them like a cassette, right, with with the cover of the cassette. So you know how back in the day, you know, you bought an album in cassette form, and it came with like the cover
Yeah.
that you had to open up. And they were actually so they figured out how to actually open up the Walkman, but then they tried to shove like the entire cover and the cassette into the Walkman without taking it out. Yeah, it was so it's funny, you know, to look back and see like where things came from and how so
Yeah.
disconnected from the past technology that the kids are nowadays. It's funny. So yeah,
Yeah, we have
I
come
would
a
love to
long
see them.
way, and it's like
Right.
all in our lifetime, which is crazy.
Exactly.
And there's
I would
so
love
much
to.
more to come.
Right. Right. According to Ray Kurzweil, right? You, have you heard of Ray Kurzweil, the futurist?
No, tell me about
Oh
that.
man, you should check. So there's a video out there called the Transcendent Man, and so Ray Kurzweiler is this guy who he came up with the Kurzweiler keyboard. I think he introduced like the text to or the speech to text thing, or maybe it's the text to speech. Either way, one of the he basically invented that, and he's like an inventor and he's like a futurist, and he goes around talking about the future of technology and how technology is going to lead us into this nanotechnology that's actually going to allow us to live longer. So there's this video or this documentary out there. It's about an hour and a half, where he discusses how technology is going to be so advanced within the next 20 to 30 years that it's going to cure all diseases. It's going to allow us to live forever. And he truly, I mean, and this guy's credible. He's one of those people that predicted where computers would be like right now, and he's like spot on. So it's not like he's some wacko that's out there saying, yo,
Hmm.
computers are going to take over. He's like really, really, really credible. And so he talks about computers and the technology and where it's going to be in the next 20, 30 years. And so this guy pops like 200 pills, like vitamins and supplements a day because he wants to, because he's older. He's probably 60 or something like that. So he
Hmm.
wants to live long enough to get to that point to where technology takes over and we're all connected into this one singularity, and we our learning will be pretty much like the Matrix. They'll kind of upload it to us, so it's really interesting. It's called the Transcendent Man.
The Transcendent Man. I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah. So getting back to you, I kind of got off track there. um So you have degrees in industrial engineering and computer science. So tell our audience a little bit about what industrial engineering is and kind of what enticed you to get into that field of study.
So I actually had no idea what industrial engineering was when I started school. I learned about industrial engineering just by reading through the brochure when I was trying to pick my majors.
Okay.
And industrial engineering, in a sense, is just the study of optimization, basically. So it's making things better, faster, cheaper, whatever it might be. So I took classes like I remember there was one class that I took. My final project was to design a network of airports across the country that would optimize like air travel from every major city in the country. So it's like trying to find like the optimal way to do anything. So it could be, an airport or airline matrix, or it could be factories, like the best way to design your assembly line, or it could be just designing a product. What's the best way to design a product? So it's basically the study of optimization. Yeah,
Okay.
that's. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. So did that involve because I talk with a lot of people in the technology field, of course, and
Mm-hmm.
it sounds a little bit. So did you all have to? Is there any like UI UX stuff thrown in there? Because I talked with UI UX experts, and it sounds kind of similar to what
Mm-hmm.
UX experts actually study as well.
I think if UI UX was a field at that time, it probably would have been incorporated. But I don't think
Uh,
at that time UI UX wasn't really like it wasn't a thing, because this was like
Gotcha.
Web 2.0 was like not even not even a thing yet. So
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
yeah, it
So
was way back.
So being a woman of color in engineering, did you experience like any hardships during college? And if you did, like what types of things did you do to kind of overcome that?
Um, I would say when I was actually in college,
Hmm.
I wasn't aware of like any disadvantages that I had. For lack of a better term, I would say I was not woke, as the kids would say today. Um,
Yeah, I, I
uh,
I I hear that term so
so
much more nowadays. It's like everywhere. That's what people are saying. I'm woke now. Like what?
yeah.
Huh?
So like I just thought that like anytime I would struggle, for me, I would just always put the pressure really on myself and think I just need to work harder and work harder and work harder, and not
Hmm.
realize that I don't want to go into the details of what other people were doing, but I was really doing everything the hard way. And like looking back, if I could do everything over again, I would definitely do everything differently. So I
Like
would say
what
that
types of
the
things were?
only
I'm
the
sorry,
only
not
thing
not
that
to
I
interrupt.
would
Go
say
ahead.
that like I can remember experiencing at that time would
Hmm.
be like, just being like the only woman in your engineering, not even the only black person or the only, it's like you're the only woman in a class full of men. So it's like whenever you're the only anything in any environment, you
Right.
automatically think, whoa, am I supposed to be here?
Right.
That's always at least at the back of your mind, if you don't realize it, like at the forefront of your mind. So I definitely had a lot of those feelings, especially as you get to like your third and your fourth year, where the classes are smaller and smaller, and there are 20 people in the class, and you're the only girl, or you're the only black person. So it's definitely a little bit lonely.
Gotcha. So what types of things were like? You say if there's you wish you could if you could go back, you would do some things differently. Like what are some of those things that you would do differently?
The number one thing I would say is I would have pushed myself a little bit more to make other friends,
Mm.
because I definitely like tried to shoulder the entire burden of my college experience by myself. So
Right.
I did a lot of studying alone. Projects, a lot of times group projects, everybody would group up and I wouldn't have anybody to group up with. Um, so I would end up with people who I didn't really feel like I belonged with. Um, and, you get into that situation where you're doing the entire project and people are not doing any work. So I
Yeah.
think I would definitely have made a made more of an effort to make more friends, because like I'm learning now that like the more people who like you, the more people will want to support whatever it is that you're doing. So I that's the
Interesting.
main thing that I would have done differently.
Interesting. So from that, like, what advice academically, can you give others who are
Mm.
looking to kind of pursue a degree in engineering or computer science?
Um, I would
Like any study
say
tips?
I mean it depends on what's yeah. It depends on where you are. If you're in high school and you're looking to go into computer science, I would try and see like what like books you can read, or even you can take a lot of classes online by yourself right now to prepare yourself. Because the one class that I always remember that I had known a lot about was like calculus, because I had already taken calculus in high school. So when I had to take it in college, it was really easy.
Hmm.
So anything that you can study before going, I would definitely try to, study it on your own, either by, finding someone who's already studied it or looking it up online. Like we have the internet, and that's something I definitely didn't really have when I was going to school.
You're
But
dating yourself, just
I
to
would
let you
definitely
know.
just like research. Yeah, try and try and start learning it before you're in the class, and it'll be a lot easier. Um,
Gotcha.
and yes, that's what I would say. And the other thing though
Hmm.
also is that when I was going to school, it was just computer science or computer engineering. There weren't um, any other courses that you could really take if you're interested in this field. Now there are so many different um, subfields within it. So you can do, human computer learning, you can do,
Right.
back end, you can do front end design, you can do systems engineering. There's so many, it's broken up a lot better than it used to be. So if you know like which part of computer science you want to study, I would definitely, at least become familiar with all the different parts, and then kind of veer towards that, because it's definitely a lot of like right now there's a lot of this like learn to code, learn to code, learn to code, but
Right.
there are so many different ways you can learn to code. There are so many different languages. There's so much out there, and if you just figure out like what it is that you want to do, it'll be easier for you to find a path to follow rather than being overwhelmed with everything that is being offered right now.
Right. Right. And I think we discussed this when we were at WWDC about there and I've had discussions with other people around this kind of this very topic because there's so many different disciplines within technology, uh, and
Yeah.
although I love the push from everybody about learning to code, but learning to code for one is not for everybody. The other issue that
Mhm.
I come across is that so you'll have there's always there seems to be like two kind of two sides of the spectrum when it comes to technology and what's being pushed out there in the mainstream. There's either coding, right? You know, learn to code. There's boot
Mhm.
camps, blah blah blah. Or there's, as far as training, there's entry level stuff. But there's not a
Mhm.
lot of what. So what's there? I think there needs to be something in between. There needs to be gaps filled in between because not everybody is going to be interested in coding, right? And then you got the
Mhm.
other side where what happens with the people after they get through the entry level. Let's just say like these entry level A+ certifications type type deals. What happens after that? Like because
Mhm.
tech is continuous learning. Like you're always going to continue to learn new stuff in technology. And so after
Yeah.
A plus, it's like, do you just throw them out there and that's it? And for me, it's like no, we especially with how the way tech is, the direction it is moving right now. So you've got everything, being moved to the cloud, right? You've got these web scale companies
Mhm.
that need engineers that have knowledge as far as like scaling web applications and everything. And you either in the way that we're approaching this, you're either going to be a coder or you're going to be an entry level help desk person, right? And
Mhm.
really, I see an opportunity for people or someone to uh, uh, get that space in between and say, you know what, let's start a curriculum right here where we can start taking these entry level people and start training them in systems engineering, systems administration, some scripting, and blah, 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 and start working them into being these administrators or engineers of like these SREs that you see at Google, these site reliability engineers
Mhm.
and things like that. And I really think that, that part is missing and coming back to what we were speaking of, it's just there's so much in between that that we're kind of not touching on. It's not just all code, and so I think there's
Mhm.
opportunities right there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think the main thing, like if people understood, like when you write a program, there's so much other stuff that's happening that's supporting that
Right.
program. And if you really fully understood like the entire ecosystem, your eyes would be, open to so many more things, something that you might even be way more interested in doing than doing front end development. So I
Exactly.
think that I totally agree with you that like there needs to be at a very high level something that shows everybody what that entire ecosystem is and like how everything actually works together. And then
Right.
like, showing people pathways to like become experts.
Right. Right.
Because you definitely have to start at the entry level somewhere, but like after that there needs to be like, some sort of a path to becoming like, a senior, systems administrator or even a project manager or,
Right.
QA engineer. There's so many other avenues that you can, take other than, front end development.
Right. And I'm actually starting to experience that because I recently took a new job, right? And it's at a much larger company, and this company actually deals with
Mhm.
web applications. So now
Mhm.
I'm being tasked with getting up to speed on not only the environment but the product, and not just from hey, here's what what the product is, but from the standpoint of the innards of how everything works together. So now I have to go talk to developers. Now I have to go talk to DevOps people. Now I have to go
Mhm.
talk to QA people and learn this entire ecosystem, the ins and outs of it, and the pain points and things that the users who actually who use the product, what are they experiencing, what breaks, and what can we be monitoring, or what things can we expect
Mhm.
from a product standpoint. And so this is actually opening. And although I knew about certain things, it's a totally different experience when you are in an environment where they're doing this web scale type of a product, and now because I went from kind of like a totally more of an infrastructure uh, position where I'm standing up like virtual environments. I'm dealing with firewalls and everything like that. And
Mhm.
now this one is more or less dealing with web applications. And so there's this whole these meetings with project managers, keeping everything on task. Talking to people in QA, talking to the developers, talking to database engineers, and so there's a lot. involved in this, and it just seems at times that at either end. Like we're either help desk people or we're focusing on coding, and there's this entire ecosystem in between that we're totally not even
Mm-hmm.
touching on. So, and speaking of
Yeah.
ecosystems,
Yeah.
tell
Totally.
tell us
Go
tell us
ahead.
a little bit about quality insurance, because even I'm a little bit ignorant as to the job itself and what quality insurance
Mm-hmm.
assurance entails, and then tell us a little bit about what quality assurance is, and then tell us why it's important to the tech ecosystem.
Sure. So quality insurance, um, it's kind of like what we were just talking about, where there are just like so many different aspects of, tech,
Hmm.
where quality assurance really depends on, the product you're dealing with. So, um, so most people in IT are doing some sort of testing. So quality assurance, you're basically doing testing at a very, very high level. You're testing whatever systems that you're working on. So for me, I work mostly on web systems
Okay.
or web applications. So it's testing the front end, and then also and testing the front end, testing the back end, and the back end it could, depending on who you're talking to, the back end could mean the CMS or the content management system, or the back end is the actual infrastructure that's holding up the website or the game or the app or whatever it is.
Okay.
Um, and so the way we go about doing that, it really depends on what aspect you're doing. So it can be just manual tests. So on the front end, that could be as simple as, if we're testing a website, just loading the website and, clicking through. That's like the very, very base level of testing. Um, uh, but nowadays, I think that is very time consuming, as you can probably tell that would take a lot of time. So the best way to do that kind of testing would be with automation. So in QA, you do actually write some code through automated tests. So the the program that I use the most would be Selenium, and that's mainly for web testing. So you just
Hmm.
write some code. I write my code in Python, and it'll just automatically test all of the front end pieces, or the CMS pieces of the web application for me. Um,
So
for
so
like the back end, go ahead. Go ahead.
So is it a thing where um so say for instance you're kind of testing the front end, right? Um and so you have like this automation that tests the front end. Is it going through, and is it how do you know like which results to expect, and whether or not the result that you get is a valid result? So, say for instance, you click on a button that is supposed to make a form appear, right? So, how do you know if
Hmm.
it's automated, for instance? How do you know that that
Hmm.
button that you click is actually working, and that what pops up is actually the form?
So we use a lot of detecting, I guess, scripts. So when
Okay.
you click on something, like you click on a button, first of all, we have to, detect if that button even exists. So let's say we're testing a form, and you go to a page. The first thing I would do is check to see if the, fill out the form button, let's say, is actually on the page. So I would do some sort of detecting to see if the button is there. If the button's not even there, then I can't run this test, and it already has failed, like, very early. So it's really like if-then statements. If this button exists, then
Mm,
click on it.
okay.
When you click on it and it launches a form, check to see that, this form is here. And what the automated test will do is like check all the form fields. So let's say it's a simple email form. Check that the to field is there. If the to field is there, type this in. If the from field is there, type this in. If the message field is there, type this in. If the submit button is there, type this in. So it's like really granular.
Mm,
When you're doing
interesting.
an automated test, you try to make it as granular as possible because, like, when it's doing it automatically, it goes really fast. If I had to do it manually, it would take forever for me to do that. So yeah, really, they're just like you would do a detection script to see if the element that you're expecting is there, and if it's not there, then it would just automatically fail. And with
Okay.
Selenium, what it can do is it can take screenshots, so you can see if I see that a script has failed, I have a screenshot so I can go and see, okay, here's the problem. This button's not even here, or this field is not here, or this field is grayed out and it's not accepting any input.
Okay. That definitely clears things up as far as because like really, I mean, I knew that quality assurance involved testing, but I didn't know like I guess the particulars of how that testing was done. So how do you
Mm-hmm.
all go about kind of testing like do you do I guess load testing to test whether or not the website could stand up to like hey, this is a new website, and it has a MySQL database backing it, and we have to see if this is going to hold up to 20,000 users or something like that. How is that done, or do you even do that?
I we don't do that as much anymore. I think at my last job we did this a lot. I think the reason we don't do it anymore is because of a lot of systems are elastic now, so they'll spin
Right.
up new instances
Hmm.
as the traffic grows. So it's not as needed anymore, and services like AWS stuff like that will kind of like they kind of guarantee that the load will hold up if you pay if you pay up.
Got you. Got you. Got you.
Yeah.
So how did you even become involved in QA? I mean, you have a degree in industrial engineering and computer science. So um, why QA?
It kind of QA kind of found me. I didn't seek it out. Um, so one of my first jobs, I would say this is my second job. My first job, I was actually teaching computer science, not computer classes to adults, um,
Okay.
and I didn't like I didn't like that so much, so I didn't last very long. Um, so my second job that I had, I started out doing like entry level help desk stuff for this software company that did emergency room software, um, and because I was supporting all of the customers and I knew the program inside and out, I knew it really well. Um, their QA team, someone quit on the QA team, and they really needed someone to jump in and fill that spot really quickly because I believe at that time we were doing a rollout to a new hospital,
Okay.
and they needed someone like right away who knew the product already. They didn't have time to get someone on board and then onboard them and teach them like how the program works and everything.
Right.
So I stepped up and volunteered, and it was supposed to be temporary, but then I was on that team basically for the rest of my time with that company. So that's how I got into QA.
Okay.
And eventually I became like the lead QA analyst on that team. I was there for a couple of years.
Nice. Nice. So what tell me what are some of the skills, because I know that you said that you do some coding. What are some of the skills that are
Mhm.
required to become a QA engineer?
Um, I would say that you have to, one of the I would say it's a combination of things. You don't have to have everything, but if you have at least most of these skills, I would say you would be great. So the first thing is to be like have an analytical mind. So to be able to look at something and like really break it down, because like your job as as a tester, is to figure out how you can break something, like where things can break. So the first thing that you need to do is like really understand like your product or whatever it is that you're testing. So analytical skills is really important to have. The next thing, it's helpful to know how to code, but if you don't have to know how to code to be in QA. I would say if you want to be a QA, like if you just want to be a QA analyst, I would say you don't need to be able to code. But if you want to be a QA engineer, where you're actually writing the code and testing systems and things like that, I think knowing how to code is probably a skill you need to have. Being a problem solver is another big thing, because you don't want to just be the person who is just like, you test something and you're like, I broke it, my job's done, and then you just walk out. You want to be able to help like find solutions. So being a problem solver is definitely something that's helpful. And so I think those are the three really big skills that you would want to have. And then the other thing with QA is like, it can be monotonous at times. So I would, if for anyone who is interested in getting into QA, I would look for a product that you really like. Because if you're working on a product that you really like, no matter how tedious or monotonous it gets, if you like the product and you want to see it succeed, that is the motivation to keep going.
Right. So how did you come to get become employed at Sesame Workshop, which is, I know I have in the title Sesame Street, but it's Sesame it's Sesame Workshop, everybody, not just Sesame Street. How'd you get a job there?
It's a really funny story. So I was working at the Freelancers Union before this, and I was the lead QA analyst there. And we had a problem on our job board. And so I was on the job board trying to figure out like what the problem was. I was testing things, posting jobs and seeing like what was going on. And I saw the job posting for, the QA manager at Sesame Workshop. And my first thought was, somebody is trolling me. That was my first thought.
All right.
Like, this is a trap. And so I didn't apply to it until I just kept seeing it and kept seeing it. I didn't apply for like a month. And so then I applied after a month, and then like within like a week I had a job offer.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's because in QA, there is definitely high demand for QA engineers and QA analysts. It's definitely high demand.
Interesting.
So I think that's why they just weren't finding people with the right skills. But once I got the job, I learned that everyone they were interviewing just did not have the right skills for what they were looking for, and I was the first person that had the skills. So that's why they were like, we have to hire this person, because it looks like there's no one else in the world that can do this job.
So tell us what QA is like there, because you think Sesame Street and you don't really think like software, but I know that they probably have a website out, and I haven't looked, but I'm pretty sure nowadays everything is online, everything is digital. All these different kind of educational or organizations kind of have a website that's geared towards, so you have like Disney Online, and then you have like these other organizations as well that have like these online educational tools for kids. So I'm guessing that the Sesame Street or Sesame Workshop has something similar, right? So what is QA like there? What types of things are you doing? What's a typical day for you?
So we actually have a lot of digital products. So as far as websites go, we obviously have sesamestreet.org, which is the domestic website. and that site has, games and, there's like an art maker on there. If you love the Muppets, there's a section for all the Muppets. Um, there are printables if you want to print out coloring books or things like that for children. So there's a lot of that stuff. But then we also have a bunch of co-productions. So we have things like, Plaza Sesamo, which is the Latin version of Sesame Street. There's Gali Gali Sim Sim for India. There's, we have Sesame in Germany, Sesame in England, Sesame in Australia. It's all over the world. So we probably have at least 20 websites.
Oh, wow.
And then on top of that, we also have all the games that live on the websites. We have to build those. So right now, I think we have almost 200 different games that live on those sites that we constantly have to update. And then we also have apps. And so we have iOS apps, Android apps, and even some Microsoft apps. So I think we're somewhere around 70 or 80 apps in between all three of those stores. So there is actually a lot of digital content that comes out of Sesame.
Interesting. So what are some of the things that you're doing on a day to day? Is it, and kind of how is what I guess what is what are some of the tasks that you have to perform on a day to day?
So since there are so many products, like for me personally, what I'm doing is just managing who's doing the testing, when they're doing the testing, and do they have enough resources. So it's like making sure we have the people, making sure we have the equipment, because like our digital products have to support, because our target audience is like, low income families, we have to target like really old devices. So we have all of these devices in house.
Oh, wow.
That we have to make sure that we testing across multiple browsers. A lot of people use Chrome, but you don't realize that a lot of people don't know that they can use other browsers, so they're using Internet Explorer.
Wow.
So you would be surprised. A lot of people are using Internet Explorer. A lot of people, and not even like the latest. Like I think Microsoft Edge is out now and IE 11, but people are still using IE 9 and even IE 8. So
Wow.
we have to support.
So let me ask you
Yeah,
this.
and every developer who's go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead and finish.
No, I was just gonna say every developer who probably heard that probably cringed, because that's like the bane of our existence, having to fix bugs for IE 9 and IE 8.
Right, and speaking of that, I mean, that means that you have to have some pretty intimate knowledge about a lot of different things. Like, you have to
Mhm.
know about the latest and greatest, and then you also have to know about, the oldie and modie, I guess. Because,
Yeah.
if you have to know about Internet Explorer 8, I mean, so you kind of have to know, like, so you kind of have to know how these different browsers operate and kind of what types of things they support, as well as the mobile
Mhm.
devices as well. So you have to have a really uh, 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 broad knowledge of a lot of different things.
Yeah. 'Cause especially with like mobile, that like has changed, definitely changed the way QA works now, because it's not only like the different browsers, the different phones, but it's also the different, screen resolutions, screen sizes, the different operating systems. There, especially for Android, the fragmentation in the Android market is like everybody who does any type of development is probably like, oh, I hate Android because of this. Because, like if you have like a Nexus phone versus a Samsung phone, even though they're both Androids, they have slightly different operating systems. So like knowing the differences between those two is really important. And I think for web products, most of the time it's not a problem, but sometimes it does present a problem. And then the other thing that you also have to be on top of is when new versions of operating systems are coming out. So with with WWDC, they always announce the new operating system. So that's coming up probably in
Right.
June. So they'll probably announce iOS 10, and we'll have to start testing like the beta of iOS 10 to make sure our stuff all still works on iOS 10 before it's released in the fall to the general public. So yeah, there's definitely a lot that goes into making sure that products, that are built correctly in the first place, but even the maintenance, making sure that they still work as like new phones and new operating systems come out later.
Nice, nice. So you're now the director of QA engineering at Sesame Workshop. How'd you get to that point? How'd you progress to that point in your career?
Um, have to be a little bit honest in that I didn't like actively pursue it. When I was hired as a QA manager. So
Okay.
I already started out in a managerial role. Um, and when I started at Sesame, there was no QA department. Um, so it started out with, just me by myself doing all of the testing.
Mhm.
Um, and then I, slowly started building a team and then, building a network because even though I have people who help me test in the office, I also, use vendors to help testing when we have like bigger projects or when the workload is a little too much for the team in the office. And that generally happens a lot in the summertime when we're gearing up for, all the product launches that we have in the fall to coincide with, back to school. Um, so I think it was just from me starting the department from scratch and then kind of just building a process to now where there's actually, if someone needs QA, it's very clear who they go to versus back before I started, it was kind of like people were like, hey, are you available to help me test this? So I think it was just recognition of going from nothing to having like an official process. And also having a supervisor that supports me and recognizes, the work that I have done that helps me to, get the promotion from manager to a director. And
Gotcha.
recognizing that I am actually directing a department and not just, one person testing like the way it started out.
Gotcha. Well, definitely want to send you some congrats on that. It's definitely a great thing to see people advance in their career and doing and definitely doing what they love to do. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
So tell us what advice can you give others who are looking to pursue a career in QA?
Um, I would say there are a lot of programs out there or companies out there who are looking for people to, do some part-time QA. So just like if you just sign up to be like a beta tester, because a lot of times when people are looking to hire someone, they're looking for someone who, has tested or has been in an environment where people are testing and, they know what testing actually is. So if you don't have a degree in computer science or anything like that, it would be great to show that you've tested something before by, signing up to be a beta tester or
Hmm.
looking for companies that do part-time QA and will walk you through, what they want you to test um, and things like that. That's what I would say for anyone who wants to start out. There are also, I know I've seen only one program out there that actually trains people to do QA. And I believe the school is called Perscalis, and it's actually in New York. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
they're nationwide, but
No, they
yeah, but
have
I know that they have a yeah.
yeah, they no, I interviewed it's funny because we have a Perscolas here in Cincinnati. Um and they
Oh,
are
okay.
just now
So it is
starting.
nationwide.
Right. They're just now starting their QA program here. I actually
Mhm.
had a few women from the Perscolas program. Or no, I had a young lady from the Perscolas program. I think I want to say DC or in that area somewhere.
Mhm.
And she was
Mhm.
she was on a program. So they definitely have other chapters all across the nation. Um, so yeah, that's it's really cool that they're um, because per Scolas, at least the one here in Cincinnati, they're one of the and it's free, right? I mean, you have to kind of qualify
Mhm.
in order to become a part of the program. But after you
Mhm.
qualify, it's like 8 weeks of free training. Here, the one here in
Yeah,
Cincinnati,
exactly.
I actually spoke to some of the students, but they at the time they only offered like A+ certification. So they have a real good network where they train these people that are looking to get into tech, are looking to change careers, and they train them, for entry level help desk positions or desktop support positions, and then they partner with local companies in order to be able to kind of funnel these people from their program directly into jobs at some of these companies around the local area. So then they're getting into the QA side of it as well. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And the other thing is that QA is if you're not really interested in coding but you want to get into tech, I feel like QA is like a really great um, entry level career that you can entry level position that you can start and position yourself that you can go in many different directions. So it's like
Right.
if you start doing QA, you can easily branch off into doing anything. If you want to go into development, you can easily branch off. Or if you want to go into, systems engineering, you can easily branch off and do that. So it's a really good entry level career that you can start, and you can kind of start almost right away, where you can, get your foot in the door and actually use that time to learn about the tech ecosystem and figure out what you actually really want to do if you're not sure of what you want to do.
Nice, nice. Yeah, there was actually a member of the Blacks Technology community who actually wrote a few. She is a QA engineer. Her name is Akila Grant. I think she got married, so her last name is probably different now. But she actually wrote a few articles on Bit about QA and some other things too. But she used to be she used to be a really frequent contributor to Blocks and Technology, and that's really kind of before that, I really didn't know a whole lot about the QA world until I started like reading her blogs and reading some of the things that she was involved in, and so she would write blogs about attending coding meetups and things like that. So yeah,
Hmm.
definitely there's some if you want to get into tech and get into some coding later, QA is definitely a good avenue for that. So let's talk about your volunteer work at Black Girls Code. I know we spoke about this when we were out in San Francisco, but tell us a little bit more about. And it's funny because uh, Kimberly Bryant, we're friends on Facebook, and so I had I always announce the Bit Tech Talk podcast on Facebook, and send it out to everybody and try to invite people. And she posted a comment on there about you being like the lead tech person or the lead uh, instructor at the New York chapter?
Yeah. I'm the New York chapter lead. I'm not sure if it's New York City or all of New York, but we focus
Okay.
on New York City. Um, um, so for those who don't know, Black Girls Code is a organization with a goal of teaching 1 million girls how to code. Um, And what we do is we put on workshops to teach girls things from, building a web page, building a game, building robots. There's some ideation workshops. We do a hackathon every year. This will be the 3rd year of doing a hackathon in New York where, beginners can come in and, have at least an app prototype in 3 days. So it's a really good program to get girls really interested in technology or in STEM, so that there are more girls, picking, either computer science or whatever it is that they decide to do when they get into college. So that's the main goal of that.
Nice, nice. So what are some of your duties as the lead instructor there at Black Girls Code New York?
So the core team in New York, what we do is we plan all of the New York events. So that's everything from finding the venue, finding a sponsor if possible, promoting it to girls, finding instructors to teach, getting food. It's just the event planning from A to Z for all of the events that happen in New York, obviously with the support of the headquarters, and headquarters is located in the San Francisco Bay Area. So yeah, we organize all of the events in New York.
Okay. And do you teach any of the classes that are offered?
I personally haven't taught the classes. I do the trainings for the people who do teach the classes. So I'll review the curriculum and make sure and, tweak it so that it works for New York, and then, train the instructors who are going to be teaching, making sure that they understand that, the audience that we're teaching, and it's not like them going to school and learning. It's like they're in a community, and that's like the big thing that we want to keep pushing, especially for me, because it's like going back to that make friends advice that I gave before, and we want to foster that community with the girls, like through the instructors and through, the assistants and through all the volunteers that are helping that day, to really give them like a really good experience, a positive experience, so that they can take this positive experience home with them and keep
Right.
on, either building their web pages or games or, robots or whatever it is that they want to do after the workshop.
And so what's the response been like in New York? And um, as far as these are you getting um, a lot of are you getting like a lot of people attending these, and are they well received? How is that going?
They are very well received, and every single workshop that we've done that I've been involved in, I've been volunteering with Black Girls Code for a little over a year now, and every event that we've done has had a waiting list of like 20 to 30 people
Oh
on it.
wow.
So, and each event that we do, we try to hold at least 75 girls. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's very well received, and people are clamoring for it because there's a huge need for it, especially, serving Black girls, because like I said before, whenever you're going into any of these environments where, people are talking about STEM in general, it's, mostly boys. Um, and so it's hard for girls to feel comfortable in an environment where they're, trying to learn. It doesn't even matter if it's coding, if it's, science or whatever it might be. If they want to learn chemistry or physics, they're always surrounded by boys. So it's really great to have an environment where they're surrounded by girls, and especially girls who look like them. so that they can, focus on what they're doing and not focusing on if they belong in the room that they're in.
Gotcha. Um, so tell us what's next. What's next for you? Like, what are your? Do you have any big plans coming up or?
I wish I had big plans coming up, but I
Well,
think what's next for me.
hmm You're attending some conferences,
Yeah,
right?
most people know that I'm very much of a go with the flow kind of a person. So like I might not have
Uh,
plans right now, but tomorrow something might come up, and I'll be like, sure, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do that. um, um, but I mean, something I've been really interested in doing is like building more of a community for uh, kind of like what you were saying before with that in between group, like people with who've already passed the entry level stage and they're not quite at like an executive level stage, and so it's like
right.
that middle piece of like moving forward, and it's like kind of like figuring out how to get unstuck. So I've been like trying to brainstorm ideas about how to move people forward and how we can help each other like move forward and overcome whatever obstacles we're facing at that time.
Very
So
nice.
yeah,
Well, once you
that's
get that,
something that I'm definitely interested in.
okay, once you get that started and everything, let us know. I'll definitely more than happy to promote what you're doing on Blacks and Technology. So yeah, definitely let us know.
Yeah, I definitely will, and I know that you'll support because Blacks in Technology, has been a great supporter of everyone. So I really appreciate that.
Excellent. So last but not least, how can people follow you? How can they contact you if they want to get in contact with you?
Um, they can follow me on Twitter. I do not have a clever Twitter handle. It's just at Onyi Nwosu on Twitter. Um, you can find
Spell
me
that
on
for us.
LinkedIn. Oh, uh, ONYINWOSU.
Okay.
On Twitter. Um, you can same thing on Facebook. Same thing on LinkedIn. I try to keep it really simple.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Anya, I definitely appreciate you taking time out tonight and spending that time with us. It's been a long time. It's been like a year. Like I met you last year, and I'm pretty sure I talked to you about getting on a podcast last year at this time. And so I'm glad that we finally got you on. Definitely wish you much success in the future and everything that you're doing. And we'll connect again, maybe at a conference somewhere or connect and get you back on a future show.
Yes, definitely. And I thank you so much for inviting me. I do feel really special to be part of the Blacks in Technology podcast alumni.
All right, great. And by the way, you're famous now, so if you start getting start
Yes,
getting
I finally
autograph
achieved fame.
if you start getting autograph requests, you know where that came from. Well, thanks a lot again on you, and take care.
All right, you too, Greg. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everyone, that's it for this episode of the Blacks in Technology Bit Tech Talk podcast. I want to thank everyone for listening in on this podcast. And if you like what you heard tonight, you want to let us know. If you have any suggestions or comments, email them to us at contact us at blocksandtechnology.net. Join us in 2 weeks. Let me see who's coming up in 2 weeks. I think it's Scott Hanselman. We're gonna have Scott Hanselman on the show in 2 weeks. So that's May 26th, same time, same channel. We're going to be talking about podcasts because Scott Hanselman has Hansel Minutes and he has done like over 520 podcasts in the past 10 years, which is freaking extraordinary. I don't even know how you do something like that. It's like a podcast every week for the last 10 years. We're going to be talking to him. We're going to be going over like what makes a great podcast, how do you get it started, and all that good stuff. So join us in 2 weeks. And until then, remember, tech yourself before you wreck yourself. All right? Take care and have a good night.
Blacks in technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.